Hey Keyley, it's Dr. Scott. Has some feedback for you on your Essay 2 draft. Just as a reminder, I'm taking a look at, for this assignment, your thesis statement, your supporting details, the details that you use to support that thesis statement, organization and transitions, and organization meaning that there's not just, like you don't just have ideas grouped together, but that you have a reason why you're beginning with one idea and then you go to a second idea. I'm also taking a look at how you're integrating sources in your essay. And I think I've read this through a couple times. I don't think I see a source just yet. I'll take a quick look. Yeah, I don't think there's a source in here yet. So you should be using two sources, and that that video that we took, the documentary about the flood wall murals, that's one. And the second one would be the Scioto Historical website. You can use articles that are in that for this assignment. So let me kind of just go through your essay and explain my feedback. So we'll start with the thesis statement. And here we have, thesis is the 37th flood and the good times Chillicothe Street murals show how Portsmouth used the tragedies that the flood brought as an opportunity to renew and rebuild the town, which is shown, I think you mean by the differences in color, facial expressions of the people, and what the murals are focusing on. I think that's a by. That should be by right there, by. This is a tough argument to build, or to prove, to defend, because you're arguing that the town thought the tragedies were something that we were supposed to renew and build upon. As I talked about in class a couple times, like talking about the values of the town that they have, it could be like, part of it is like optimism. The town is optimistic, so even, though we had the 1937 flood, we pulled together and we had this optimism that led us to have a scene like the good times of the Chillicothe Street mural. That's a possibility, but you're going to have a hard time creating an argument or supporting an argument that does that. It's like, what can the murals actually show? They can show the values of the town, like the way we think about our past, but they probably can't help you prove that. So that's something to think about here. So that thesis statement will need some clarity, and you'll need to you might need to tweak that thesis statement a little bit. What I noticed is that in the body paragraphs, you have a lot of detail, and I'm not always sure what it's used to support. And so you'll have, like in this paragraph here, you have a lot of detail in here. But you don't really kind of get in there and explain what that detail means. Like, you don't interpret that detail, and that really needs to happen in the revision. Which might be a good thing, because if the thesis statement needs a bit of work, maybe the question to ask yourself is, given all this detail that you have, what is it really saying about the town? And then, like the focus idea, what they're deciding to focus on, because they could have used a number of images about the flood, but they chose these images here. What are they trying to say about the town, that we have this disaster, and these are the things that the murals are highlighting, that they're focusing on? So you have decent detail here, but it's not really explained in a way that helps us understand what the papers, like what does that detail mean? That needs to be answered here and in the other body paragraphs. There's also an issue when you go to the Good Times mural and you're talking about the names of all these places and the description of the lighting and stuff like that. Again, great detail, but what does that mean? At the end of the paragraph, there is a super interesting idea that I just love. Keyley, I think that this is an awesome idea. The artist does this on purpose, so we're focused to pay more attention to the environment of the mural. That is so cool. Like, I didn't think about that. So what is it about that environment, the Dafford, that the mural is, like, why focus on that environment? Why should we focus on environment? And what you might have is like that focus on environment contrasted against what is the focus of the flood wall murals? Is the focus on the people helping out each other? I mean, what are they saying about the town to have that focus? Super interesting idea, but it's one that you arrive at, and what needs to happen is this needs to be like the starting point of the paragraph. It really, like, I think that's, you're onto something there, which means this is a far more interesting idea than like if you can explain why we're supposed to focus more on the environment, that is a far more interesting idea for the thesis statement than what you have there currently. In the next paragraph, you have the artist use a different expansion of colors when painting these two murals. He needs to go a little step further in this first sentence and throughout the rest of the paragraph, and you need to explain why did they have those different colors in those murals. What was the point of using of that contrast there between the colors in this mural and then the 1937 flood mural? What's the overall point of that? And again, like I mentioned in the earlier paragraph, you have a lot of great details, but it's not clear what it's supposed to mean. So we have paragraphs about what's happening on the buildings, the light poles, and there needs to be some discussion after that kind of explains here's what this means. Like, here's how it kind of relates and connects to that thesis statement of mine. And to just show the contrast in these murals, that it shows a contrast between good times and bad times. I think you'll need a little bit more there. You'll need a lot more there, actually. Just saying that it shows different times is saying something about the town, and that needs to be. You need to think that through, because that kind of gets us back to that thesis statement and clarifying that thesis statement. And so I think once that thesis statement is clarified, you're going to be able to do a better job of connecting these details and explaining these details and how they help support your paper's thesis statement. I see that you do have a source here, so that's good to know. We do need to know who this Duncan is, just like we talked about in the Stedman article. You've got Duncan in here, but we don't know who that is, so you need to tell us a little bit about where that source is coming from. As I mentioned with the thesis statement, like my feedback earlier about the thesis statement, I don't know if this paragraph is going to wash. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if you can actually make the case that the tragedy was the opportunity to build up the town. That's more of a historical argument, like the history of the town would bear that out. The murals are about representing something about the town, like our values, our beliefs, our morals, our ethics, and it's not necessarily about this thing equaled this other thing. Like, the tragedy was the thing that made us rebuild. I think you'll have a more interesting argument if you're able to kind of get in there and talk about what are these two murals saying about the town. You've got hints of ideas there in these earlier paragraphs. Okay, so that's my feedback. You got a ways to go. There's some work to be done on the thesis statement, and then you have a lot of great detail, but that detail needs to be supporting an argument. And right now, the argument's it's not on the most solid ground. So reach out to me. Let me know if you got questions. Let's find a way to get this thesis statement a bit stronger, and let's get it supported throughout the body paragraphs. Right now, you've got a lot of great detail, but it's not. I don't always see how they're connected. Okay, that's my feedback for now, Keyley. If you got questions, make sure you let me know.